And welcome on into Command Center Draft Special presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Washington Commanders. You want to come on out to a game, you got to do it via SeatGeek. Welcome on in. Julie Donaldson, Santana Moss, Fred Smoot, and Logan Paulson. Okay, we are on the clock as things are getting real for second round pick at number 57. Logan, coming in, we talked to Emmanuel Forbes Jr., and then we put up your list of best available for Washington at this selection. Who is still left?
Not a lot of guys, I'll tell you that right now. So,
so maybe the decision is that much easier.
So what I'll tell you is that if you're going to offensive line, I think you got to say we got to look for position flex. That's something they value. So Cody Mock's an interesting name right there. Tyler Steen out of Alabama, the tackle guard kind of guy, very good football player. Both offensive linemen I think would fit what they're looking for here in Washington. Linebacker, you got Diane Henley, who's an excellent football player. Linebacker, and then Fred, I think you like this, man. I think we got Sidney Brown and Jartavius Martin, both from Illinois. Both really fun to watch on film.
And people need to understand that coached by Lovie Smith. He's the leftovers from Lovie Smith, so Lovie Smith knows his defensive backs.
Well, Washington wasting no time. The pick is already in.
All right, what we looking at?
So give us a name. Give us a name. Give us a name.
Sanders.
Sanders? Look at you.
Drew Sanders. Why not? Drew Sanders. No, Thanos.
Thanos.
DeJuan Jones.
DeJuan Jones. I like that. I like that. I would say.
Surprised.
You want to be surprised?
You want to be surprised? Okay, well, don't go to Twitter.
Yeah, Cody Mock is what I would say.
Okay, and it is out. We are going Jartavius Martin.
Ooh, that's a bad man right there.
Okay, he's another secondary pick going again down on defense. Now, he's listed as a defensive back, but they're anticipating this pick probably going along the lines of a safety, Fred.
Oh, he's a tweener. Right now, safety is very much, a cornerback, DB, safety is interchangeable. You got some guys that can be stuck there, but they want guys that can be universal. He'll come in and play Buffalo nickel. He'll be in the middle of the field. He'll play strong safety. When Cam Curl is overloaded, he'll come in that game then, and he'll be a special teams guy. He's already been coached by a pro in Lovie Smith, so at the end of the day, he'll be ready for the challenge of the NFL.
Why go defense again?
I think right now it's just best player available. I mentioned Tyler Steen. He's kind of in my tier 5 of guys, so this would be a little bit of a reach for him. Cody Mock, do you really love him that much? A guy that's converting from tackle to guard.
North Dakota.
Played at a small school. To me, I look at this piece of paper I got in front of me, and that is the best player on the board. He's an outstanding football player. Like Fred talked about, he brings excellent position flexibility. When you're watching Devin Witherspoon, that whole secondary jumps out, and he's probably the second best guy of that group. So I'm ecstatic to get him here. I like good football players, Fred, and he's an outstanding football player.
Speaking of depth with this position, we talked about so much of this last year. We need more guys to be able to be interchangeable, guys to come in when guys go down. But we also got to think about it too, and let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Sam Curl should be getting paid. So is this one of those plays where, hey, you never know?
It's insurance.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Bring a guy in that could probably fill those shoes because we're not sure we're going to be able to pay a guy like that.
I definitely think this is Cam Curl insurance, but he's also interesting because I think he does have some nickel experience, right? And we just talked about at the top who's going to play nickel for this team. I'm not saying he's going to play nickel, but he definitely has a Buffalo nickel type skill set, your dime linebacker type skill set. And I like those types of football players, guys that can cover in the slot, also take on a pulling guard, also be physical, also smart, instinctive football players. We mentioned with Forbes the spatial awareness. This guy's got the same thing. You can tell they've kind of done their homework on these football players and found guys who are of a very specific ilk.
Now, you said the main thing, flexibility. Played all over the field. That won't change. At the end of the day, you're talking about bringing a guy in here that frees you up to play your defense. I see what the team is thinking right now. Let's sew up these holes that we had last year on the strongest side of the ball so it can help the other side develop.
Absolutely.
So I'm totally good with that. And they only go get better as they learn how to communicate and get on the same page. So this is a dig at the future right here. You got your future corner, and you got a guy that's interchangeable. Anything you need me to do, Coach.
This is something too. We talked about how far can we see our team go back to get those offensive linemen that need it. Now when you're looking at a play like this or a pick like this, I'm wondering what the fans are saying right now because I remember driving in here.
They're losing their mind.
They was pissed off. They were like, hey, if we don't go offensive line, then something's going on. So it'd be something interesting just to see how we go in the third round.
But they can't do that. They can't do that because guess what? If we did pick an offensive lineman in this spot. Don't get no guarantee that this offensive line gonna be a Pro Bowler, a starter, a contributor. Like, they're trying to get guys that can contribute now. Here go the whole thing about it. I hate to break this to all the fans, but guess what? 70% of the guys that's drafted in these next 2 days will not be in the league in 4 years.
Absolutely.
That's what the number says. So if you can get 3 or 4 starters out of a class, you won that class.
Absolutely. And I think these are the types of guys that are good starters, right? Guys that I trust. When you watch the film, they love football. They're passionate about it. You can tell they're students of the games. You mentioned Lovie Smith. He definitely had a type of guy he was looking for. And so I think these guys are both going to be big contributors to this team.
Fred, you were touching on it, that you're apparently feeling safe, that you can still get a good tiered offensive lineman a little bit later. And with this, obviously, if they go by the tier system, then, Jartavius is higher up on that tier than some other offensive linemen, and even you are hemming high. So what are we doing here then?
So for me, like, I look at my sheet. This is my tier 4, so that's kind of right in the middle of the second round, and he's the best player on the board. You could maybe make an argument for Adebayo out of Northwestern, the defensive end, but I think this fills a much more acute need for this team. And, Coach Ron Rivera said, I want to draft best player available at a position of need. And I think this is what this is. And I know everyone's talking about offensive line. I look at the offensive linemen available currently, and none of them kind of fit that type that they're looking for.
Yeah, with the multi-purpose guy.
Yeah, the multi-purpose guy. I know everyone talks about DeJuan Jones, Osiris Torrance.
I like him.
Those, I know, Fred, so do I, but they are not kind of what the team's looking for at the moment. And there are guys like that later on in the draft.
And then speaking of need, also, you got to think about it, because we had another need in linebackers. But when you really look at our defensive scheme of things,
we don't play a lot
of secondary guys
instead of linebackers
at those positions. So we don't necessarily need a guy who's just going to be a linebacker and then come off the field on third down. We need guys like this, interchangeable, who can play and fill those spots.
That's exactly right. And if you're looking for linebackers, there are linebackers later that are kind of these athletic freaks, which they like. We talked about how they had a type at offensive line. They have a type at linebacker, too.
Yeah, Henry Tutu from Alabama, I think, will be a guy that they'll like. 235 pounds. No, I mean, not the biggest guy, but a guy that can run sideline to sideline. But I know the fan base is wondering, why won't we draft the offensive line? Don't forget, Wiley that we signed in the offseason. He's a Super Bowl winner. Yeah. Like, we can't, there's nobody in this draft that we're going to draft that's going to be wiser or better than him. So at the end of the day, look at it for what it is. We got some guys that's interchangeable on our offensive line. Now we're trying to add guys to the pile that can contribute right now.
Well, one of the things I'm sure folks are probably going to say is, you had a lot of veterans on that offensive line last season, and then you had a lot of injuries as well. Yeah. So they were kind of wanting a younger breed coming up, a younger generation to come up to be able to have some sustainability, and I think there was a lot of hype going into the draft at that offensive line position. I know you're hemming and hawing over this a little bit, but Logan, can we still get a good offensive lineman later? And we'll get back to it. We will get Martin coming up. We'll chat with him in just a few minutes, but I just want to address the critics out there.
Yeah, so I do think a guy like Tyler Steen is an excellent football player. He's started 42 games in his college career, 36 at Vanderbilt, started the last season at Alabama, played guard, played tackle. Talk about a guy that fits their characteristics, a guy that's played a ton of football.
Intelligent. Yeah.
Again, another guy, Wanye Morris, in terms of measurables, 36-inch arms. He's got longer, his arms are about the same length as DeJuan Jones. He's a big, huge, strong guy, got a little bit of development to doing. Warren out of Pittsburgh is another guy that I think is very, very interesting. So there are guys, right? Stoll, the guard out of Western Michigan, he's got some ability to play guard and center. So there are guys later. It's just they're not these household names that everyone's exposed to, and they got to fit this system here. And the coach has to be able to communicate with them. And so I do think if they've got higher evaluations on those guys, they've had meetings with those guys, I think the fans should say, hey, we're going to trust Ron's process. And also, I think this is a really good indication of what the draft is. The draft has to fall to you. I know for a fact Matthew Bergeron and Steve Avila are guys they like a lot, on the list, but they're off the board.
Didn't fall
so now what do? We got to go to our next best player available, and that's why we tier the draft, and that's why we feel comfortable with our evaluations.
A lot of it is reacting to what does happen ahead of you. And look, you mentioned Santana that earlier. We saw just how valuable Cam Curl was to that room, to the safeties when he went down to injury. It also opened up the opportunity for Derek Force-Defo to come in and have some more opportunities within that as well. But how do you see him kind of complementing who already is there? Is he kind of this guy that can come in and play right away? Is he somebody that's going to learn? Where does he fit within
Well, one of the
room?
things that stands out, the first thing they said, that they're going to have to find a place for him on the field. But they already said clear out the box there. He can play safety, or he can play corner, or like Logan just alluded to, he can play that nickel guy, that Buffalo nickel guy.
Which they love that Buffalo nickel position.
We need guys
everything that Brian McCain did last year, this guy can do. Yeah. He's your replacement for McCain. He's just younger, a little stronger, and a little faster. Yeah. Okay. And I think that's the only difference in him. He will be a plug and play player, but tell them don't forget about the offensive young guys we already got. We need to see what Sam Cosmi is. All right, we got Sadiq Charles on this thing. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we went to a center on the offensive line. Right. That's the position on the offensive line that I would say, let's go right now.
I like it. Chris Bryant, one of our hog farmers, they are out there in Kansas City. He's going to be announcing, I think, the 4th round pick out there. And look, they go in full force, traveling, representing the burgundy and gold, getting out a nice little welcome. Plenty of welcomes, plenty of saying, look, defense wins championships. Yeah. One of the things that they say is build where you are strong and make that unbreakable. And as much as we want to say this defense was one of the reasons that they had success last season, let's not forget there were plenty of opportunities where there were some holes that they needed to address. Yeah. So for as strong as we want to say that it is, it obviously could take many more steps and strides moving forward. Mm-hmm. This is just another one in that direction.
Like Coach Gibbs always told me, you either get better or worse in the off season. You don't stay the same. Yeah. And I think right now, as of today, we are better than we were yesterday. Yeah. Like, we added a cornerback capable of starting, changing games. We just added a safety corner that's able to play a little bit of everything. We got better in the process, but I still got guys on my list like John Michael Smith, center from Minnesota. I think he's a guy you can add to. So I still got guys on my list, and like Logan said, the offensive linemen now, they're starting to smush together. It's not going to be that you're finna find one, but Carter Warren from Pitt, he's a guy that got hurt early this season, did not get to finish the year. I really do think if he had finished the year, he would have been a first-round pick. Yep. He's dead good. I think that's the surprise that they got waiting, and they know they can get him in the 4th or the 5th.
Yeah, absolutely, and there are guys like that. But I think to Fred's point, like, when you are building a competitive roster, with the best roster you can build, you want competition in all spots. Mm-hmm. And this guy just brings another element of competition, provides a little security for Cam Curl. So I totally agree with Fred. I think, don't stress the draft. Yeah. Got to kind of take it as you come. That's why you have free agency to help fill in some of those other roles. That's why there's the 3rd wave of free agency after the draft, where other veterans are loose, where you can maybe sign a guy that you feel can fill out the roster. So get the best football players available, and I think they've done a good job of that so far.
Keep the main thing. Get the guys that's best for what you do on your team. So.
Yeah, and the absence of Bobby McCain, I think, is a very good point to make, as they were really relying on him coming in, and he had that veteran leadership as well in that room. But you do see where they were going, and since he's no longer here, you do need to address that, because we see how important depth is at the position as well. And again, you preached position flex. That's one thing I'm sure.
That's the hot word of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems like what they're really emphasizing for sure.
But it's important. I think that's the way the game is going. You have to be able to be moved around and be, and also it keeps teams guessing too.
But we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, and I ain't talking about Logan. The elephant. The elephant in the room is the fact that Darnell, like, we haven't got a Darnell yet. Darnell Washington is still out there.
I told you ain't always right.
Listen, and I'm shocked because I put him in that unicorn group, and me and Logan was talking. It has to be something else.
Yeah, something
else, because I can see Eric Bieniemy just sitting there, a guy that just had Kelsey at tight end, saying, look at this oddity sitting here, so big, so strong, so fast. Let's take a shot on him. I wonder why.
And you talk about offensive weapons. I think Washington's very specific kind of inline blocking. Well, I think Bates does a good job of that. I look at Devon Achane out of Texas A&M. He is a dynamic, explosive guy. Ran 10-1 in the 100, Tana. He ran a 4.3 at the combine. Plays running back, has return ability. Like, guys like that are still out there. If you're looking for juice in the offense, if you're looking for another blocker, you're looking for more defensive pass rush, we still got a long way to go now in this draft.
I hate to break your heart. I don't think it's going to be an A-train headed in this direction. I'm sorry. I just
we need that scat back. We need that third down. McKissick replacement. I think there's a guy out there like that.
It's some backs out there. It's a lot of backs.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
It's a lot of backs out there that you can get. And don't forget, we got 2 6th-round picks.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to take that shot on, let's just find us a back.
Correct.
Some young legs, some guys that can make something happen. It's a lot of guys out there. Rashawn Johnson, the backup for Bijan Robinson. Yeah. Like, it's just so many guys. Yeah, it's so many guys out there that you can get.
And I think the only issue with this is that in the 3rd round, you got that compensatory pick. So it's one of the last picks of the 3rd round. So you're not picking again for a very long time because of that Carson Wentz trade. So it'll be interesting to see what they do if they maybe move some pieces around, try to get deeper into that third round. Yeah, because that 97 is way back there.
No, it's back there, but it'll be players there. I think this is a middle thick draft. I think it's a lot of talent in the middle of this draft. I'm just wondering, like everybody else is, and I'm sure they are they going to take a shot on the offensive line? When they do, like, has the level and the peers dropped so far that they're not willing? I mean, that they're not worthy of taking in the next pick?
So I think at 97, I think, like, who do you think would still be there, Fred? I mean, I got my sheet here. I could read some names off, I think.
Well, I think John Michael Smith might be there.
It's
not a lot of center heavy needy teams out there.
Yeah.
I think Carter Warren will be there.
Yep, I do think Carter Warren will be there.
And I think he's the only guy that's legitimately, I think, is a starter, meaning if he don't get injured, he's a first-round pick. I watched him dominate people like that.
He reminds me of, honestly, Morgan Moses, that type of guy, right? A guy who is still in the NFL, 10, 15-year guy. So, and then the other guy is Wanya Morris, I think, is an interesting guy. Again, from a measurable standpoint, a little lackadaisical with his play, but an offensive lineman you like. Linebackers, Overshown, the guy from Texas, the converted safety. He'll be there. Williams out of Tulane, or Tulsa, I forget. Long, rangy linebacker with a lot of speed. Like, if you're looking for linebackers, you look at that stuff.
Ivan Pace Jr. is my guy.
Dude, he looks like London Fletcher out there.
That's what I'm telling you. Ivan Pace Jr. is a guy that swap paint. He starts the game with a red helmet, ends it with a purple one.
And to that point of London Fletcher, I mean, he was undrafted.
Yeah.
So, you go out there and you say, okay, where should they fall? Second round, first round. The expectations for players at those positions is to come in and be such an impactful player as they should and you would want by selecting at that point. But you can really get impactful players as you even get further into the draft.
No doubt. And Tana, you could speak to this probably. Like, when you're on the team, you've been, 13, 14 years. Those third, fourth round picks, those guys are supposed to be ball players.
I was just going to ask you that, because one of the things that people fail to realize is that if you're not a legitimate first round pick, especially at certain positions, offensive lineman, you normally get those good guys in that third round, early fourth round. So I've seen plenty of guys come through these doors that you never heard of them. And they played 10, 12 years because they was picked in the right position, right spot, in the right round, and it not necessarily has to be a first round draft pick. You get most of those guys down there.
First round means you're ready now. If I pick you later, I'm going to give you time for maturation.
You just played at that level in college to where we can't let another team.
And I'm going to give you a short leash to show me that you can do it on this level. You won't have a long leash.
And I think, like Morgan Moses, third round pick. Charles Leno, sixth round pick. Like, these offensive linemen, you can find them from smaller schools, wrong situation, injury history, right? So again, if they've done their homework, which I know they have, they've got someone in mind in those later rounds.
One of the things you can't take for granted too in these draft picks, fans might sit home and say, well, why didn't we go out the offensive lineman right now because we have the pick? Well, obviously they did their homework and they know that offensive lineman might still be around our next pick. So why shoot the wall now and go after someone when we can get someone else?
We had the run on offensive linemen. The run happened. Now we're having the run on defensive backs and tight ends. That's what's going on right now.
So one of the things that Coach Rivera was saying coming into this is what you do in free agency directly impacts and affects what you can do in the draft and the moves that you have. You get the luxuries you may give yourself. Are we seeing that taking place here tonight?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we're seeing that, right? You don't
cause and effect.
Yeah, you don't go out and sign all those offensive linemen and say, hey, we have to draft offensive linemen. Like, they put themselves in a position where, say, we can draft whoever, the best player available at a position of need. And that's excellent draft process. And it might not be the sexiest thing in the whole world, but it's good process, and I always trust good process.
Well, first of all, just because I draft a place of need, it's no guarantee this dude is going to be a Pro Bowler. So that's why just because a name is called don't mean the name will fulfill their destiny. And that's what most people needs to understand. And that goes from the first pick of the first round to the last pick. So I just think it's one of them things where we have to be realistic about these picks.
Absolutely, yeah.
It continues. It continues. I mean, there's and here's, I mean, this is the fun part of draft night is everybody has an opinion and everybody has who they feel that Washington should select. And even in the war room, there's healthy conversations. You walk around the building and you hear different coaches saying, okay, like, who's left? What do we have? Who's getting it? Like, trying to sit there and lobby for the player that they have until they're taken off the board, and then you go to that next level behind it as well, which is what the scouts are heavily doing their work at, to evaluate and know in the tier system who is that best available player. And you can't jump up and reach for somebody either. You wouldn't want someone to do that should you say, okay, I have an offensive lineman, but it would be moving him up and drafting him higher than maybe you would want to.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking about Tyler Steen, and I love Tyler Steen, but I do think that would be a reach here, right? So why am I going to reach and diminish the value of that 47th pick when I can get a guy who is fully slotted, I think fits that value at a really nice level? So again, this is a little bit uncomfortable for fans because you're not filling every single need right off the bat. But I do think that this has been an excellent draft so far for this team.
And it's not fantasy football either.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Folks get caught up in the fantasy football and think we're going to run our real draft process like a fantasy team. Like, no, we have to fill in these slots where we feel like guys can really contribute out the gate. And, man, honestly, we didn't have no clue that we're going to go secondary. But when you think about the whole scheme of things, that's all you see on field.
Wide receivers and cones.
You have more receivers playing in this game today than any years have I ever seen before. And so, and now the tight ends are running like receivers. So you have to get stout in those areas.
And that's where Jartavius come in at, because he will be a guy that matches up on a move tight end on a guy. And don't forget, Waller is in New York.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And don't forget, Philadelphia still has that guy. I'm sure Dallas is aiming for a tight end for Dak in this draft. So, yeah, this is very important. Don't just look at this as a waste pick. This kid can get out there, and this kid can play. I've watched him.
If I'm looking at some of the comments that come up here in the chat, and again, if you have questions as well, drop them on in. We're monitoring this, which is why we're addressing a lot of your concerns about the offensive line. But, folks are saying here, Santana, that we're drafting like a team with an elite front four and can generate a lot of turnovers in the secondary, which we just heard Coach say is one of the main reasons that they went for Emmanuel to begin with.
We've been saying that for the last, 4 or 5 years.
We have an elite front four.
We have an elite front four.
But we weren't getting the turnovers that we necessarily needed, helping out the offense.
Well, if you think about last year, we was basically we turned things around last year. When you saw those guys in the inside players, whatever they played, now you get a healthy Chase Young back, and not to take nothing from the guys who played while Chase was down. If you just go out on the limb and say a healthier Chase Young, them quarterbacks that we play this year got to get that ball out of their hand fast, because those guys on the inside and both of those guys healthy on the outside going to be allowing those guys on the back end to sit there and just pick their poison and say, hey, you know what? They can't hold on to this ball, so I'm going to go out here and jump some of these passes.
And they realize just a good deadline is not enough.
Right.
If you want to manufacture turnovers, they are manufactured from the back end. The defensive line just initiate them, but we on the back end, we finish them. And what they understood was, I need to get some people on this back end so I can capitalize on this defensive line, so I can see who do I need to keep and pay. That's the most important thing for this defense right now. It's an audition for defensive ends, and I need to know which one of y'all I need to keep, so I need everything to be full power and full steam ahead when it comes to the defense.
You also spoke about just drafting well. You know what I mean?
Spoke about everything.
You spoke about drafting well, and when you're in a situation like this and you're getting more guys, to me, this is another case of us drafting well. We saw our secondary be depleted. A couple of years in a row.
This last year
alone, we was bringing in guys from other teams just to fill in the spot. Danny Johnson came back and filled in that slot and solidified it and said, you know what, they're going to sign him to a 2 more year deal. So we saw we was hurting that area, and now we have guys that we can really call eyes again.
And to that point, I think you brought this up, Fred. Like, this team led the NFL in pressures for like 10 weeks. Imagine if we get a little bit better coverage in the back end. How many more sacks you get? Turnovers, sacks, all those kind of explosive plays, right? So this is flushing out that defense in a nice way.
All right, Martin is going to be joining us here at. Martin is not going to be joining us here, so we will get Martin as soon as we can, though. But run through really quick some of the intangibles of the safeties that we do have and how he kind of complements with his skill set.
Yeah, I do think this is interesting, Fred, and Tan, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too, because he's very much like the guys they already have.
Defoe is who he reminds me of.
But in some ways, he's more athletic than Defoe. He's like a Percy Butler and Defoe coming together, right?
All right.
And a guy that's got a little bit more experience in the slot, a guy that got, he can do kind of everything. And so now I really think it's kind of like that Forbes piece where you get to put the best guys on the field. He allows you to do that. Maybe Defoe is more more comfortable in that box role. Maybe he's more comfortable in a special teams role. Maybe Percy Butler's more comfortable in the post, and he can come down there and get that done. So
yeah, he's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Whatever you need him to do at that time, and that's what you want. You want these glue guys. Glue guys are the guys that hold the team together, because no matter who gets hurt, I just fill in and we just keep on going.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy seems to be. And that seems to be they want him to grow with Emmanuel Forbes. They want them to grow together because they just watch what they did on the defensive line.
Yeah.
But they see they did not match it with the back end, and it's incomplete. They're trying to complete something they started years ago.
One of the things I would say as a receiver, playing against many different defensive back ends, you always get one or two guys that you're looking out for. You know, maybe it might be a safety, maybe it might be a corner. You're not seeing that guy every play because most corners didn't follow everybody around.
Yeah.
When you lining up against this Washington Commanders defense, not only are you going to be worrying about those guys up front, now you got to worry about those guys in the back end.
Yeah.
They got plenty of names back there that's going around that's going to be on that field that you got to say, man, no matter what side I'm on, I got one of these potentially best guys at this position.
Yeah, and I think both of you guys can speak on this, but like the longer you play with a secondary, the more you can kind of work with each other and understand. And so
the more we look at each other to change plays, we don't have to talk.
And so the idea that they're going to grow together, you know, and like how challenging is that, Tana, when that safety group can say, hey, we can top hat this, we can box this, we can switch to cover 4, kind of on the run based on the formation. It makes it almost impossible.
You saw when those guys started gelling last year and how easy and effortless it looked out there for them at times. So you can just imagine now with, you know, better guys in those positions, or guys that you basically, you know, homegrown. You draft these guys and now you get a chance to get these guys caught up to speed. I can't wait. I'm a receiver, like I always say, and I've always watched the secondary, you know, when I watch these games and say, man, we just need some more help back there, and just to see where we drafting that this time around. I know it's not the sexiest picks when it comes to some of these fans, what they want, but as football players, as ex-players of this team, you know, I can honestly say that we're drafting much needed guys for what we're trying to do next year.
Yeah.
And you have to be fair. I mean, look, we want to say that this team, again, the defense is the strength, and most certainly, but we missed the playoffs. We only had 7 wins.
Yeah.
We had injuries to almost every unit that other players were having to step up for, and just not enough depth at times to really be adequate fulfill-ins for some of those positions.
Sure.
So that is what this draft does and where it is. As soon as we can get Martin, we will have him joining us as well. Apparently he goes by Quan. So Jartavius will go by Quan. We'll have to figure out why Quan that is. What is it like for those players who are still sitting there waiting for their name to be called right now?
They are losing their mind.
You don't know?
I don't want to know what it's like.
Hey, listen to me.
Tina's like, I was gone.
They
I
are
was celebrating already.
They are emotionally unstable right now.
Were you emotionally unstable? Because you were in the second round, right?
Yeah, and I was emotionally unstable.
Really?
Like, I was sitting there watching everybody that got drafted before me after I knew I was supposed to be drafted, and I was writing them down.
Yeah.
I was emotionally unstable. I want to go to their house that night and play football. But I'm just saying, you see name after name after name, and you see it go. You start to get unsettled. I know guys that just get up and leave and just take off walking. Didn't even know they got drafted until they got back home. So it's just one of them things. You got to realize, these guys have been dreaming about this day since they were 2-3 years old. Yeah. And now that it's here, every minute, every second, every hour is nerve-wracking right now. You know for a fact, it's nerve-wracking.
I'll say this too, though, and I don't want to cut you off, Logan.
Yep.
But you have to also prepare to know that,
I was gonna say,
you know, we can't control that. So why put myself in that pressure or that situation where I'm going to be sitting here waiting? You know, kind of relax, kind of understand.
Yeah, but you're a competitor because you want to go.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, even as a guy who went first round, I didn't really know where, and I didn't know if I may slip in because everybody was talking about my size, and so I never put that pressure on me. I didn't bring the people to the house. I didn't have no cameras in front of me. I say, this is who I basically grew up with in this house, and we're going to sit here and watch it like we watch the draft any other year. Right. And when they call my name, then we'll rush all these people that's outside with these cameras. We'll rush them in here and we'll take the pictures and take the video. So some of these guys have to have good people behind them to tell them, not to do all this craziness, so they won't sit there and feel like you saying emotionally.
Yeah, just emotionally drained on your happiest day of your life.
And I was going to say, man, like, hopefully their agent, hopefully their inner circle advised them and said, hey, you're probably not going to go in the first round. You're probably not going to go in the second round, and gave them an
Nobody told Will Levis?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's sitting there.
That's what I'm saying. Somebody gave him bad advice. Somebody said, hey, man, probably don't go to Indy. Maybe just watch us at the house with the family, right? And that's something that I'm ever grateful to my agent for. He was not like, oh, Logan, you're going in the fourth round. And then I would have been stressed out.
Yeah.
I would have been like, oh, my gosh. He was like, you're probably going to go undrafted. And I was like, cool. So I didn't have to worry about expectations. It was like, this is what's happening. So I think that's exactly right, Tana.
But I think, too, also, man, just knowing that that day is here and you're going to get drafted or be a free agent, just having the opportunity means a lot. You know, I think where a lot of these guys get tricked at, just like you just talked about, not having that representation that's going to let them know the truth and say, look, man, the day is here. Somewhere down the line from first round to the seventh round, your name may be called or not, and you might get a
Let's show our age, but we also got our draft basically handled in a day.
Yeah.
These guys are going to sleep. Like, I couldn't imagine.
But football is a little different too now, too, when it comes to how these kids are being brought up.
But I know, but it's a weekend that I just have to wait. It's a weekend that I have to wait, and thinking about waiting to Saturday. And then waiting to the end of Saturday to get your name called. I think that just.
I tell you one thing: if you was sitting there day one and Saturday come and your name ain't been called, you better go play some football and basketball. Go do something.
You're gonna have to do something to loosen up the mental.
Go bowl or do
something. Go fishing.
Could you imagine your agent says, hey, you're going to go in the third round, then you have to wait a whole night? You know, you get slept to the fourth round. You got to wait the whole night.
I'm saying, it's too much. Like, I couldn't sleep.
Somebody gonna get punished one way or another. I don't care if it's gonna be good or bad.
While we continue to wait and try and get Quan on the line for us. Okay, Quan, I'm told is actually on the line.
Oh, there he is.
Well, come on in. Welcome. Welcome to the Washington Commanders. Jartavius Martin joining us now live. But you do go and you're on the phone, so unfortunately we don't have the video with you. But we're grateful that you could join us right now. What was it how was it when you received that phone call from head coach Ron Rivera for you?
I mean, it was great, man. Just knowing that this is something I've been working my whole life for, and just to be able to hear my name called was just great.
What did coach say to you? What was that message?
So he talked about me coming back to Washington. He was like, I told you we was going to get you, because I had a top 30 there. So, he just brought me back and put me in those colors. So
aware early on that that was a target. I did
not have that situation when I was coming through. Quan, I see you listing and I watched you play. I seen you play a lot of safety, but I also saw you play some nickel. They got you really slotted as a DB. What position do you really want to label yourself as? Are you just whatever you need me to do that day, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I done it all, man. So, like you said, whatever you need me to do on Sunday, Thursday, Monday, I'm going to go out and do it.
Quan, I call you Quan too, little homie Quan, but I'm just playing with you.
Rich homie Quan.
Rich homie Quan, there you go. You are.
You are now.
hey, but what I want to ask you is, first I'm saying Tanner Moss, man, but I want to ask you, just seeing the Washington Commanders secondary, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the secondary, have you watched these guys the past couple of years, but just knowing who you're going to be playing amongst and some of those guys up front, what they can do for that secondary, how happy are you to kind of be picked by a team that you can really go out there and make an impact out the gate? Lost him?
I mean, I'm greatly excited, man. We always pass up and coverage goes hand in hand, so I know the guys up front going to get after the quarterback, and we're going to do our job in the back end.
Hey, Quan, this is Logan Paulson. Congratulations on being here and being a Commander. But I just wanted, for people who don't know you, don't know your game, how would you characterize your game to the fan base, and what are some things that you think you do exceptionally well?
I'm a versatile DB, man. He can come in and help support and run, and also go play the ball in the air. So, I can get us through a game at corner. So, just being able to play in those different positions when needed, and just tough physical player.
And that shows up on film, man. You're a heck of a football player.
Yeah, you are. Man. And did you by way get a pleasure of playing for
Lovie Smith?
Lovie Smith? Was Lovie Smith already gone when you got there?
Nah, so I played with him for 3 years.
Okay.
And he seemed to have a really good backfield there, right?
Yeah,
you got Sidney Brown, your teammate Witherspoon got drafted early. You're getting drafted now. What's it like playing with a group that's all going to be in the NFL pretty much?
And already played in a pro-style defensive backfield.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, man. Just being able to play alongside those guys for a number of years. We was on the same page a lot of the time. So, I mean, just tough physical group and love to get after it.
Quan, we can tell that you have a lot going on right now behind you. Describe the scene for us right now. What is going on in the house that you are in?
I mean, man, I got about 40 people in here, all social media family, man. They're super excited for me, and I mean, man, it was just crazy just to hear my name called on television.
Well, Quan, we're excited for you as well, man. Welcome to the Washington Commanders. Look forward to meeting you when you come up here, man. But enjoy your day, and I can just imagine what you're going through right now. We all been in them shoes before, man.
Welcome to the family, brother.
Congratulations, brother.
Yeah, Quan, fans will be excited and anxious to meet you and see what you bring to the secondary. What message do you have for them as you join the NFL with the Commanders?
I mean, I'm super excited to be a part of the Commanders, man. Just want to thank the fan base, thank the coaching staff, and everybody for welcoming me in.
Okay.
All right.
Enjoy your night. Jartavius Martin,
Quan, thank you.
Selected in the second round. Great to have him joining us live. We can't wait to actually meet him in person.
Julie, I can't believe you didn't get on him for being a politician. He was like, hey, Terry, this is Logan Paulson.
Hey, we can't see us.
Vote for me for city governor.
You can't see us, so when you start talking, hey man, what's up? It's Ian. I was like, what is going on? Who's this man talking to me for the first time?
Vote for me. Vote for me for
Fred
librarian.
just assumes everybody knows his voice. It resonates further out there beyond just the DMV. There you go. That is our second round pick. 2 players taken on defense and in the secondary. So what does Washington do with their third round pick at 97? When we're on the clock, we'll be back here again, and we'll be feeling your emotions as well, answering your questions, and talking about the pick in the third round.
Logan,
thanks for joining us.
I'm Logan Paulson.
I'll be back after this.
I wanted to know what you was doing in Illinois for the last couple of years.